Before we dive headfirst into tonight's jaw-dropping saga, picture this: you return from the vacation of a lifetime, sun-bleached beaches, endless margaritas, pure bliss, only to find a battalion of total strangers lounging on your couch, raiding your fridge, and claiming they own your house. That's right, a full-blown suburban coup d'état, complete with missing TVs, stolen scotch, and a self-proclaimed Karen who dials 911 on you while you're still holding your luggage. What happens next spirals from trespassing to viral news, courtroom drama, and a high-stakes city council showdown that could decide the future of every HOA in America. Want to know how a humble homeowner morphs into a political titan, and how the queen of entitlement nearly takes an entire town hostage? Buckle up, because the twists hit harder than a Florida hurricane and the fallout is messier than a neighborhood garage sale in the rain. But first, let's light up that comment section. Tell us where you're watching from, smash that like button, share this wild ride with your friends, and subscribe so you never miss the next episode of Chaos. Ready? Let's hit play. The Florida sun had barely cooled off my skin as I stepped off the plane, still basking in the glow of 2 weeks of pure vacation bliss. After 6 months of grinding through neighborhood complaints, tree trimming disputes, and mailbox drama as the president of my HOA, I had finally allowed myself a break. And now, I was just looking forward to one thing: stepping back into the peaceful silence of my own home. I'm Mitchell Gray, and this is the story of how that peace got violently shattered. The Uber ride home was uneventful. My driver, a cheerful guy named Tony, chatted me up about the beach, the weather, and the best places to get Cuban sandwiches. I half-listened while mentally planning my return to normalcy, unpacking, grilling something decent for dinner, and sleeping in my own bed. Simple pleasures. That plan took a nosedive the moment we turned onto Birchwood Lane. There were way too many cars in my driveway. A rusted-out minivan with a busted taillight, a dented white pickup, and a maroon sedan with mismatched hubcaps. It looked less like my quiet suburban home and more like the parking lot of a roadside flea market. I blinked at the mess. My once pristine front lawn was covered in plastic toys, a broken lawn chair, and what looked suspiciously like a kiddie pool half filled with murky water. "You sure this is the right place?" Tony asked, eyeing the chaos. "Unfortunately," I muttered, already feeling my stomach drop. I got out of the car, luggage in hand, and walked slowly up the driveway. My mind raced. Was I being robbed? Had the house been sold without my knowledge? Squatters? Through the front window, I could see shadows moving, the blue flicker of a television, and the outline of a child running across the hallway. Someone was watching cartoons in my house. I hesitated at the porch, then knocked. My knock. On my door. The person who opened it was the last thing I expected. A woman with heavily bleached hair, styled into what I can only describe as suburban aggression, squinted at me like I'd just tried to sell her a fake Gucci purse. She wore a faded velour tracksuit and had the unmistakable aura of someone who believes rules are for other people. "Can I help you?" she asked, as if I was the intruder. "I think there's been a mistake," I said slowly. "This is my house. I live here." Her expression didn't change. In fact, it hardened. "We've been living here for 3 weeks," she said flatly. "Nice try though." I was stunned. 3 weeks? This Karen, who I'd never seen before, was standing in my doorway, acting like I was the problem. And that was when I knew, my nightmare was just beginning. My knuckles still stung from knocking. I hadn't realized how tightly I was gripping my suitcase until I saw my hand trembling. The woman in front of me, Karen, as I would soon learn, stood her ground in the doorway like she was defending Buckingham Palace. Behind her, I could hear the hum of a microwave, the chatter of a cartoon, and what sounded like children arguing over snacks. "This is my house," I repeated, more firmly this time. Karen's nose scrunched like she'd just smelled expired milk. "No, I don't think so," she said, folding her arms. We've been living here for almost a month. Maybe you have the wrong address. Wrong address? I'd lived at 508 Birchwood Lane for 5 years. I planted the garden. I had the damn mortgage. I took a deep breath. My name is Mitchell Gray. I'm the owner of this property. I have proof if you need it. Karen squinted at me like she was examining a suspect under interrogation lights. Look, she said. I don't know what kind of scam you're trying to run, but we were told this place was for rent. We signed an agreement. Agreement with who? I asked. Jeremy. Of course, there was a Jeremy. There's always a Jeremy. And Jeremy is. He's my cousin's boyfriend's brother, she said, like that somehow legitimized the situation. He handles real estate stuff. Said the guy who owns the house was loaded and wouldn't even notice. I could feel the heat rising behind my eyes. My stomach dropped not with fear, but with the rage of someone watching their life slowly unravel at the hands of idiots. Karen, I said, my voice tight, you were scammed. Jeremy doesn't work for me. I don't even have a property manager. I live here. Alone. No leases. No tenants. She let out a laugh, the kind of fake, nasal sound that could sterilize flowers. Anyone can say that. You got proof? I pulled out my phone and began swiping. Here's the deed. My mortgage app. My driver's license with the address. Look, photos of me painting the living room. That's the same beige wall behind you. Karen leaned in, glanced at my phone, then crossed her arms. Could have photoshopped all that. You think I'm stupid? I didn't answer. But I was definitely thinking it. Ma'am, I said, switching to my HOA president tone, the one I used when people tried to install neon lawn flamingos. I'm asking you to step aside so I can enter my house. Her eyes widened like I just confessed to a felony. Absolutely not. You can't just barge into someone's home and claim it's yours. I'm not barging in. I'm the owner. Not today, you're not. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a phone. You know what? I don't feel safe. I'm calling the police. I actually laughed. Great. Let's call them. No, I'm calling them, she shouted, already punching in 911. You're threatening a mother and her children in their home. Her volume jumped 3 octaves. Hello, yes, police? There's a strange man at my door. He's being aggressive. He says he owns the house, but I've never seen him before. I'm here with my children. I'm scared. I raised my hands in the air like I was on some reality show. You have got to be kidding me. Within 10 minutes, 2 patrol cars rolled down Birchwood Lane and parked, in my driveway. The officers, Martinez and Thompson, stepped out, both of them already looking exhausted. What seems to be the issue? Officer Martinez asked. Karen sprang into action. Officers. Thank God. That man, she pointed at me like I was holding a chainsaw, showed up claiming this is his house. He's harassing me. Threatening me and my children. I haven't stepped foot inside, I said calmly. I just got back from vacation and found strangers living in my house. Sir, Officer Thompson asked, do you have ID and proof of ownership? I handed over my license, then started swiping through photos, documents, and emails on my phone. This address matches, Officer Martinez said, checking my ID. I showed them photos of me standing in the yard, painting the shutters, installing the deck. Even my Amazon deliveries were addressed here. These documents look legitimate, Thompson said. Karen scoffed. Of course they look legit. That's how good scammers operate these days. Officer Martinez turned to her. Ma'am, do you have a lease? Rental agreement? Anything proving you're authorized to be here? Karen's face froze. We don't need a lease. We have squatters' rights. I blinked. Squatters' rights? We've been here 3 weeks, she said proudly. We've maintained the place. Paid the utilities. I looked at her. You've been paying my utility bills? Well, the lights were already on. Officer Thompson rubbed his temple. Ma'am, squatters' rights don't apply here. Especially not after 3 weeks in an occupied home. Karen's response was nuclear. This is discrimination. You're taking his side because you're in on it. This is a conspiracy against white families. I looked at Officer Thompson, who happened to be black. His face was blank, but I saw a flicker in his eyes that said, I've heard worse. This has nothing to do with race, he said. It's about legal property ownership. And you are trespassing. Karen crossed her arms. We're not going anywhere. This is our home now. Officer Martinez sighed. Mr. Gray, do you want these individuals removed? Yes. Immediately. Thompson stepped forward. Ma'am, you have 15 minutes to gather your belongings and vacate the property. Otherwise, we will make arrests for trespassing. Karen stared at him in disbelief. This isn't over, she growled. You can't just throw a family into the street because some HOA guy shows up with Photoshop. You're right, I said. But I can because I own this house. That's when the parade began. One by one, the inhabitants of my house spilled out like clowns from a tiny car. First came a boy named Tyler, clutching a juice-stained coloring book and staring at me like I was the villain in a Disney movie. Who's that, Mom? He asked. Nobody important, sweetheart, Karen answered, like a dagger to my chest. Then came her teenage son Brandon, dragging out a PlayStation and muttering about how unfair life was. We just got the Wi-Fi working, he said bitterly. You mean my Wi-Fi, I said. A woman I hadn't seen yet, Karen's sister, probably, emerged from my master bedroom carrying a suitcase. Her husband followed, holding a bottle of scotch. Is that my Macallan 18? I asked. He looked down. Oh. Yeah. It was open, so. Put it down, Officer Martinez said. Karen's nephew appeared next with a stack of my books, followed by a woman carrying my coffee maker. Why do you have that? I asked. She blinked. It makes better coffee than ours. I was watching my life be unloaded from my own house like it was a community garage sale. The final insult? An elderly man, Karen's father, I assumed, shuffled out in my favorite Christmas robe. This your robe? He asked. Yes. Too bad. I'm keeping it. No, you're not. It was abandoned. I was on vacation. Officer Thompson took it off him, with the kind of professional deadpan that deserved an award. As they packed up their lives into a rusty caravan of broken-down cars, Karen turned to me one last time. You think you've won, she said. But I know who you are now. HOA president, right? I did my research. This isn't over. I didn't flinch. Then I suggest you Google trespassing laws next. She climbed into the van, slammed the door, and rolled down the window just to say, you haven't seen the last of me. As the Kowalski convoy sputtered down Birchwood Lane, Officer Martinez handed me her card. Change your locks. Reset your passwords. Call your insurance. Officer Thompson added, you might also want to invest in a better security system. I stood alone in my doorway, luggage at my feet, staring at a house that had been mine a few hours earlier. And now looked like it had hosted a 3-week frat party for sociopaths. Vacation was definitely over. The police cruisers had barely vanished around the corner before the full weight of what had happened punched me in the chest. My beautiful Florida bungalow no longer looked like an HGTV spread, it looked like the before picture of a disaster relief commercial. Crushed juice boxes dotted the hardwood floors. My leather sectional bore an outline of Earl's backside, and the gauzy curtains smelled faintly of microwaved fish sticks. I spent the next 5 hours on damage control. First, new deadbolts, one on every exterior door. Then a marathon video walkthrough for my homeowner's insurance claim, narrating like some shell-shocked tour guide, this gouge? Brandon's skateboard. Those stains? Unknown, possibly grape soda. By 1 a.m. I was curled on the lone corner of the couch that wasn't sagging, wondering whether a man could die from second-hand chaos. I woke at dawn to the hiss of lawn sprinklers and the dull ache that follows a sleepless night. Bleary-eyed, I brewed coffee in my reclaimed coffee maker, thankfully wrestled back from Karen's sister, and shuffled out to the porch. That's when I noticed the sedan. It sat across Birchwood Lane like a surly guard dog. Oxidized paint, missing hubcap, engine ticking in the humid air. Behind the wheel, slumped low, baseball cap tugged over his eyes, was the Scotch thief husband I'd seen the day before. He was staring straight at my house through the windshield, motionless except for the occasional drag on a cigarette. So, surveillance? Intimidation? Both felt ridiculous, yet there he was. I lifted my phone to take a photo. The sedan's engine revved, lurched forward 10 yards, then settled again. Still close enough to keep watch. Wonderful. I texted the picture to Officer Martinez with a short caption, "Gray, Karen's crew staking me out." Her reply came back in seconds, "Martinez, we'll swing by. Document everything. Stay inside." Martinez's warning was still glowing on my screen when an unfamiliar number lit up my phone. Mitchell Gray speaking. "Good morning, Mr. Gray. Calvin Prescott, attorney at law." The voice was smooth, almost syrupy. "I represent MS. Karen in the matter of her unlawful eviction from 508 Birchwood Lane." I pinched the bridge of my nose. "Unlawful?" I asked. "She broke into my house." "That's your opinion," Prescott chirped. "My client entered under a verbal rental agreement with an authorized agent named Jeremy. She paid 1 month's rent plus security deposit, only to be forcibly removed, without due process, because of discriminatory animus." Discriminatory. "She and her minor children," he pressed on, "suffered emotional distress, property loss, and public humiliation. We will be filing for damages, $55,000, plus legal fees." I almost laughed. "Mr. Prescott, Jeremy is Karen's cousin's boyfriend's brother. He has zero authority over my property. Can you prove that? Can you prove the opposite?" Prescott's smile was audible. "That, Mr. Gray, is what civil juries are for. You'll receive our complaint shortly." He hung up before I could answer, leaving a soft buzz in my ear and a heavier thud in my gut. 55 grand, public shaming, a stalking sedan, Karen was just warming up. An hour later a white van rolled onto the block, 12 Action News. A petite reporter in a tailored blazer hopped out, cameraman in tow. She practiced lines while the cameraman framed my house as a backdrop. Great. Karen's narrative was already on air. I slipped on a clean polo, squared my shoulders, and walked across the lawn. "Good morning," I said. "Can I help you?" She spun, surprised. "Mr. Mitchell Gray." Eyes widened, she'd clearly hoped I'd stay hidden. "Mr. Gray, Maria Lopez, Channel 12. We're covering allegations that a local HOA president forcibly evicted a family of 4 under questionable circumstances." "Questionable," I echoed. "Would you like the homeowner's side?" Ms. Lopez glanced at her producer, then nodded. I gave a concise rundown: my vacation, the break-in, Karen's refusal to leave, the police confirmation, the mountains of proof. I kept my tone calm, my sentences tight, and, crucially, never raised my voice. When we finished, Lopez looked thoughtful. "Ms. Karen claims you targeted her family because they're white." I gestured to the ruined rosebushes, the caved-in kiddie pool. "I targeted trespassers because they were trespassing. Their skin color never crossed my mind. Though the damage to my credit score might." She smirked despite herself. "Thank you, Mr. Gray. We'll include your comments." As they packed, I spotted the sedan still idling. Maria followed my gaze and raised an eyebrow. "Friend of yours?" "Something like that," I muttered. By noon the clip had aired. Within minutes my HOA's vice president, Pauline Nguyen, was blowing up my phone. "Mitchell, I'm fielding calls from homeowners who think we're running a racist cabal. Tell them to watch the whole segment," I sighed. Lopez cut it pretty fairly. "Doesn't matter. Allegations already viral on Nextdoor. We can't afford this image, annual elections are in 2 months. Pauline, a woman broke into my house. I'm the victim. You're also the face of the HOA. Optics, Mitch. Fix them." She hung up before I could remind her that fixing optics wasn't in my official job description. Sitting in the wreckage of my living room, I realized Karen had committed the cardinal sin of suburban warfare. She picked a fight with a man who files by color-coded tab dividers. I might not have Karen's flair for drama, but I had something she didn't: records. Phase 1, City Hall. I called Sam Dalton, a buddy who owed me for fast-tracking his gazebo permit. "Run an address for me," I said, 91 Oak Crest Drive, Karen's real residence. Within 15 minutes, Sam texted a PDF bursting with code violations: unpermitted room addition, junk car citations, $2,300 in unpaid fines. Gold. Phase 2, Law Enforcement. Detective Valerie Ruiz had helped our HOA after a string of mailbox thefts. She respected organized paperwork, and coffee gift cards. When I emailed her Karen's data, plus Jeremy's phone number, she replied within the hour: "Jeremy has priors, fraud and identity theft. I'll dig deeper." Platinum. Phase 3. HOA Sisterhood. Donna Fisher, president of Karen's own HOA, nearly squealed with relief when I called. "We've had complaints about her since she moved in," says the board discriminates against her because we allow bilingual yard signs. Donna emailed 27 formal grievance letters Karen had filed, everything from alleged microaggressions at the neighborhood potluck to the Christmas lights contest being secretly anti-Christian. Titanium. At 5 p.m. My big sister Eleanor arrived, rolling a slim briefcase and radiating no-nonsense confidence. She'd litigated civil rights suits in 3 states and taught 1 semester of law school just for fun. "Calvin Prescott," she snorted after I recounted my morning. "He's notorious for frivolous filings. Once sued a coffee shop for temperature discrimination, claimed their iced drinks were priced the same as hot, thus oppressing patrons who prefer warmth." She flipped open her laptop, fingers flying. "We'll counter with trespass, conversion, harassment, stalking, defamation. And we'll seek sanctions for abuse of process. You make it sound easy. It is when the facts are this lopsided." She paused, glancing at the sedan across the street. "Who's that?" "The Scotch thief." "Good. More intimidation evidence." We drafted a cease and desist within the hour, demanding Karen and associates cease harassment, retract false statements, return stolen property, and pay for damages. Or face a civil suit triple the size of hers. Eleanor C. Seat Prescott, the county clerk, and, just for fun, Maria Lopez. Next morning Detective Ruiz called. "We've got Jeremy," she said. "He was arrested on an outstanding warrant, rental scam in Jacksonville. He's confessing, claims Karen knew the house wasn't his to rent. Ruiz forwarded a sworn affidavit. Jeremy admitted he pocketed Karen's deposit, then texted her, "Owner's rich, won't notice." Karen replied, "LOL, will be settled by the time he gets back." Case, meet dynamite. News traveled fast. By sunset Channel 12 aired an update, rental scam unravels, original victim implicated. They displayed Jeremy's mugshot and read excerpts from his confession. My earlier interview played side by side with Karen's tear-filled soundbite. The contrast was delicious. At 9 p.m. my doorbell rang. Through the peephole I saw Karen, makeup smeared, hair in disarray, flanked by Tyler and Brandon. She held a white envelope. Against Eleanor's advice, I opened the door, phone camera rolling. Karen's voice quivered between rage and desperation. "This is your fault. You turned the media against me. My kids are getting bullied. Leave the envelope," I said calmly, "and step off my property." She shoved it into my hand, crumpled, unsealed. Inside, an apology? No. An invoice. Handwritten. Damages owed to Karen, emotional trauma therapy, $4,000, hotel stay, $2,100, fast food meals, $312. I almost admired her audacity. "Karen, Detective Ruiz has Jeremy's confession. You participated in fraud." "Lies," she hissed. "Jeremy's snitching because he's jealous." "Jealous of what?" "Your code violations." Her cheeks flushed crimson. "You'll regret crossing me," she spat. "I have friends in City Hall." "Funny," I said, stepping back, "so do I." Eleanor, filming from behind me, called out, "Ma'am, please vacate. This is documented harassment." Karen's eyes darted from my phone to Eleanor's, to Tyler's anxious face. Something shifted, the fury faltered, replaced by brittle fear. She backed off the porch, her kids trailing. The sedan sputtered to life and they drove off into the night. 2 days later Eleanor and I marched into the county courthouse. Our complaint ran 42 pages, complete with exhibits. Photos of property damage, screenshots of Karen's discriminatory social media rants, Jeremy's affidavit, Martinez's bodycam footage, and the stalker sedan pics. We also filed a petition for a temporary restraining order. Prescott must have read it the moment it hit the docket, because my phone lit up before we'd left the parking lot. "Mr. Gray," he blustered, "this is retaliatory." I put him on speaker. Eleanor responded, "Mr. Prescott, your client orchestrated a break-in, defamed my brother, and endangered his safety. We look forward to discovery." A beat of silence. "Then, perhaps we can discuss settlement." "Put it in writing," Eleanor said, hanging up. What followed was a week-long spectacle. Jeremy pled guilty to fraud, agreed to testify against Karen in exchange for reduced sentencing. Detective Ruiz reopened 2 prior complaints filed by neighbors against Karen, now bolstered by Jeremy's statement that she used discrimination claims to bully people. City Code Enforcement, tipped off by Sam Dalton's file, slapped Karen's real house with $7,000 in fines and set a foreclosure hearing for unpaid liens. Channel 12 ran a multi-part expose titled "Villain or Victim?" The Birchwood Lane Story. Viewers overwhelmingly sided with the homeowner, me. According to their online poll, 82% to 18%. Prescott quietly withdrew the discrimination lawsuit, filing a 1-sentence notice of voluntary dismissal. My cease and desist demands were met. Karen mailed a cashier's check for $8,450, estimated property damage, and a lukewarm apology letter that began, "If you felt offended," classic non-apology. Yet the biggest twist arrived in a glossy, patriotic mailer that landed in every neighborhood mailbox 3 weeks later. The flyer featured Karen in a red blazer, chin lifted, flanked by a waving flag, Karen for city council, fighting for families, exposing HOA tyrants. I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my coffee. Her platform accused HOAs of systemic oppression, promised to legalize front-yard chicken coops, and vowed to abolish all fines for cultural expression, her euphemism for leaving refrigerators on porches, I guessed. That evening Pauline Nguyen convened an emergency HOA meeting. Residents were furious. Karen's campaign had weaponized our association's name. "We need our own candidate," Pauline said, looking squarely at me. "I'm already HOA president," I replied. "Isn't that enough punishment?" "Mitch," she said, leaning forward, "no one understands the rules better than you. If Karen wins a council seat, she'll make our lives hell." Eleanor nudged my elbow. "You beat her once. Do it again." I gazed around the rec center conference room. Neighbors who'd trusted me with their grievances, their gardens, their property values. Karen had turned my quiet street into a battlefield. Maybe the only way to restore peace was to meet her on this new front. I exhaled. "Fine. I'll run." Cheers erupted from the room. Pauline scribbled notes, already strategizing yard sign colors. Eleanor's grin said "told you so." And somewhere across town, I imagined Karen peeling campaign bumper stickers off her minivan, realizing her nemesis was on the ballot. Game on, Karen. Again. A month later Birchwood Lane sported competing yard signs: "Vote Karen," "Real change for real families, elect Mitchell Gray," "Integrity starts at home." Neighbors whispered that our street felt like Iowa before a primary. Channel 12 announced a live debate. Prescott, now Karen's campaign manager, issued press releases accusing me of weaponizing city bureaucracy. Eleanor countered with tax record bombshells showing Karen 13 months behind on property taxes. Yet for all the noise, I felt oddly calm. Karen had chosen spectacle, I chose receipts. And in suburban politics, paperwork beats theatrics every time. Election day loomed like another Florida thunderstorm, humid, charged, inevitable. Whatever the outcome, one truth was clear. You mess with a man's house, you'd better be ready for him to run for yours. Nothing warps time quite like local elections. One moment you're sipping lukewarm coffee beside a stack of yard signs, the next you're racing from meet and greet to town hall, fending off rumors that you plan to outlaw backyard barbecues. For 3 weeks Birchwood Lane resembled a miniature Washington, D.C., clipboards everywhere, front porch stump speeches, the occasional volunteer dressed as a bald eagle. Pauline Nguyen ran my operation like a NASA countdown. She scheduled precinct walks, organized Mitch Mob Mondays, door-knocking blitzes, even color-coded our database of undecided voters. My sister Eleanor handled legal compliance, ensuring every mailer carried the correct disclosure line, paid for by friends of Mitchell Gray, and that no one, under any circumstances, spelled council with an S. Karen's camp, by contrast, felt less NASA, more carnival. Her manager, Calvin Prescott, the same attorney who'd threatened to sue me, handed out bumper stickers that read "Karen, shaking up City Hall," complete with a cartoon jackhammer. Their rallies featured inflatable chickens, a jab at rubber stamp incumbents, and a karaoke machine where Karen belted country ballads about freedom. She framed me as the HOA tyrant who wanted to ticket grandma for mismatched begonias. Still, early polling from Channel 12 had me ahead 54-38. The margin felt comforting. Until the night everything shifted. It was 2:14 a.m. when my phone pinged with a motion alert. I'd installed a new doorbell camera after the Kowalski fiasco, and the app rarely slept. The thumbnail preview showed a hooded figure creeping up my walkway. I rubbed my eyes, thumbed the live feed, and watched the intruder kneel beside my campaign sign. Snip, metal stakes hit the grass. The figure rolled the sign like a yoga mat, shoved it into a tote, and slipped into the darkness. Petty, but survivable. I downloaded the clip, emailed it to Detective Ruiz for the record, then rolled over. 45 minutes later the app pinged again, 3 more signs gone, 1 on my lawn, 2 on neighbors. When sunrise finally bled through the blinds, Birchwood Lane looked oddly naked, my blue Integrity Starts at Home placards replaced by Karen's red jackhammer art. By 8 a.m. Channel 12 parked another van at the intersection. Vandalism rocks tight city council race. Anchors said my supporters claimed foul play, Karen's camp denied involvement, police promised to investigate. Standard fare, until lunchtime, when Ruiz texted, Ruiz, pulled footage from 2 doorbell cams farther down the block. Suspect's plate registered to Jeremy. Jeremy, the cousin's boyfriend's brother who'd already pled guilty to fraud. Out on bond, apparently bored. Ruiz filed charges, petty theft, election interference. The story exploded on social media, sympathy pouring toward me. But politics is a seesaw, every upward bounce invites a downward slam, and Karen was ready. 3 days later a glossy mailer thicker than a restaurant menu hit every mailbox in District 4. The sender wasn't Karen's campaign, it was something called Neighbors for Neighborhoods Incorporated, a nonprofit no one had heard of. The front featured a sepia photo of a rundown shack and the headline, HOA boss Mitchell Gray, bad for working families. Inside, bullet point allegations. Fined a veteran for flying the U.S. flag at dawn. Wanted to ban Christmas lights that didn't match his approved palette. Raised dues 200% during COVID. All false, but sticky. An asterisk directed readers to Public Records, actually a blog Karen's nephew had started weeks ago, stuffed with doctored PDFs. Eleanor dug deeper. Neighbors for Neighborhoods listed its address as a P.O. box and its treasurer as M. Walker. A Google trail traced it to a shell corporation. With Calvin Prescott as incorporator. Dark money, local style. We held a press conference in my driveway, Eleanor, Pauline, Detective Ruiz, off-duty, plain clothes, and me behind a lectern borrowed from the rec center. I displayed the real HOA meeting minutes. No veteran fines, no Christmas light bans, dues increase of 6%, not 200. Reporters peppered me with questions about free speech and overreach. I answered with actual numbers, offered them copies of the minutes, and reminded everyone that our HOA board included 2 veterans and an ordained minister who adored 40-foot nativity displays. Karen responded on Facebook Live moments later, broadcasting from her porch, "He's lying. I've got moms who swear he ticketed them for sidewalk chalk." She brandished a pink slip of paper, turned out to be a gas station receipt. Her followers flooded the comments with angry emoji. Our own supporters spammed with fact-check links. The algorithm feasted. Polls tightened, 48 to 45, my lead now within the margin of error. Channel 12 hosted the lone televised debate in the Lincoln High Auditorium. 100 folding chairs filled the gym floor, cameras lined the back, a moderator stood between 2 lecterns. I wore a navy suit, crisp white shirt, plain flag pin. Karen arrived in a scarlet blazer, the same shade as her signs, hair teased to improbable volume. Opening statements were boilerplate: strong communities, lower taxes, listen to the people. Then the moderator hit us with audience questions. Q1, how will you address property tax inequity? I cited millage rates, proposed auditing assessments, expanding senior freeze programs. Karen said taxes were theft, promised to fight greedy bureaucrats with pitchforks if necessary. Applause scattered but loud. Q2, do HOAs have too much power? I acknowledged abuses, noted ours kept dues transparent, saved residents thousands by preventing code fines. Karen called my HOA a dictatorship that forced retirees to beg for pastel paint. She waved a picture of a lavender mailbox allegedly rejected by our board, never mind it was from a subdivision 20 miles away. The moderator pressed, "Ms. Karen, who supplied that photo?" "Anonymous source," she shot back. Isn't that Jeremy's Instagram? I asked. She ignored me. Q3. What specific ordinance will you introduce first? I pledged a code modernization task force, cut red tape for small businesses. Karen vowed to outlaw any HOA fine over $25 and to allow goats on lots under half an acre, for milk self-sufficiency. Even the goats looked surprised. The moment that sealed the night came during closing statements. Karen veered off script, accusing me of weaponizing Detective Ruiz to spy on private citizens, and referencing the doorbell footage of Jeremy. I responded evenly, if you mean the footage recorded by my own camera, on my own property, you're correct, because someone stole from me. I turned to the audience. Transparency, folks. That's what we need. You don't get it from anonymous blogs. You get it from records and cameras. Applause built like rolling thunder, mostly my side, but some independents too. Karen's smile stiffened. The red blazer suddenly looked like a warning light. Channel 12's Instapoll aired minutes after we exited stage left. Viewers rated my performance, more convincing, 62%, Karen's 29%, undecided 9%. Pauline high-fived me so hard my palm stung. Yet Eleanor whispered, brace. Prescott's got another shoe to drop. The shoe landed 2 mornings later. A scratchy audio file posted on Karen's campaign site, labeled Mitch Unmasked. The clip. My voice allegedly telling HOA board members we should hunt down non-compliant neighbors and fine them till they bleed. The blog framed it as proof of my tyrannical instincts. Except it wasn't my voice. A simple spectral analysis, Eleanor knew a forensics guy, showed edits, pitch shifts, spliced phrases, background hum inconsistent with our meeting room. We went public fast. Forensic report published, sworn affidavits from every board member stating no such conversation occurred, and a YouTube side-by-side demonstrating mismatched ambient noise. Meanwhile, Prescott doubled down, issuing press releases about gray corruption, he loved puns, and filing an ethics complaint with the state. Detective Ruiz reached out, forging audio to sway an election skirts felony territory. She subpoenaed Karen's nephew's laptop. Metadata revealed he'd pieced together phrases from 3 separate HOA Zoom meetings, added a voice changer, and posted under the handle TruthHawk76. Channel 12 broke the story, fake tape tied to Karen campaign. My poll number leapt to 57%. Karen's dipped to 34%. Prescott called Eleanor, begging for mutual withdrawal of complaints. She replied, "See you in court," then cracked open sparkling water to celebrate. With 11 days left, I felt confident. Right up until the Neighbors for Neighborhoods bank records leaked. A whistleblower, someone in Prescott's office, annoyed over unpaid overtime, emailed Eleanor scanned statements, $10,000 wires from a construction consortium currently bidding on a municipal parking garage contract. If Karen won, she'd vote on that contract. Pay to play in living color. Eleanor filed the packet with the state ethics board and the local paper. Karen's Facebook Live that evening tried to spin it. These community partners believe in me, Mitchell's jealous. Unfortunately for her, Florida statute is crystal clear, independent expenditure groups can't coordinate with a candidate. A photo surfaced of Karen autographing Neighbors for Neighborhoods mailers. Coordination, meet evidence. Prescott disappeared from public view, reportedly negotiating his own cooperation. Karen soldiered on alone, rallies shrinking, karaoke chickens deflated from heat. In a final Hail Mary, she parked a flatbed truck plastered with Stop HOA control outside the early voting site, blasting, "We're not gonna take it." Code enforcement cited her for unpermitted signage. She blamed me personally. Florida autumns feel like other state summers, and November Tuesday was no exception, 89 degrees Fahrenheit by noon, humidity thick as chowder. Volunteers handed voters water bottles wrapped in gray for council labels, legal as long as under $1 value. Karen's team tried handing out full-size slushies, ran afoul of electioneering rules, and sulked behind the 150-foot buffer zone. Results trickled in after sunset. The first precinct, mine, showed me up 62 to 36. The next, a mix of apartments and starter homes, broke 55 to 42. By the fourth precinct, Karen's red bars shrank like cotton in hot wash. At 9:47 p.m. Channel 12 called it, Mitchell Gray, 59%, Karen, 38%, write-ins and undervotes, 3. My living room erupted. Pauline, Eleanor, Detective Ruiz, Officers Martinez and Thompson, off-duty, neighbors clutching sparkling cider. I stepped onto the porch to fireflies and camera flashes, a warehouse of adrenaline unspent. Reporters shouted, "Councilman-elect, any comment?" I took a breath. First, thank you. Second, this victory isn't about me, it's about facts over fear. Birchwood Lane taught me homes are sacred. Tonight the city said rules matter too. In the distance I heard an engine rev. The same battered sedan, fading down the street. Winning didn't end the saga. Karen still faced charges, election interference, through the fake tape, conspiracy, dark money violations, and outstanding restitution from the trespass case. Jeremy accepted 6 months in county jail. Karen, awaiting trial, called it political persecution, launching yet another GoFundMe. It stalled at $318. Prescott flipped fully, testifying before the ethics board in exchange for leniency. Neighbors for Neighborhoods dissolved overnight. The construction consortium withdrew its garage bid. At City Hall's December swearing-in, I placed my hand on Eleanor's worn law school Bible. Mayor Rodriguez welcomed the new council, cameras clicking. As I recited the oath, I spied Karen at the back of the chamber, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. She mouthed something, looked like not over. I smiled politely, finished the oath, and sat. Councilwoman Alvarez leaned over, "Friend of yours?" "History project," I said. My first month on the dais was a crash course in potholes, zoning maps, and Robert's rules. I chaired the new code modernization task force, just as promised. We passed a pilot program easing fees for mom-and-pop shops, tabled yet another parking garage proposal, and allocated funds for veterans' roof repairs. Then came the goats. Karen's final campaign plank had resonated with a surprising subset of residents. A petition landed on the clerk's desk. Legalize backyard dairy goats. The clerk, smirking, assigned it to my committee. Debate was lively. Proponents cited sustainability, fresh milk, 4-H programs. Opponents feared noise, smell, rogue escapees. In the gallery sat Karen, notebook in hand, perhaps hoping to catch me regulating livestock into oblivion. Instead I proposed a compromise: pilot permits, max 2 dwarf goats, minimum yard size 10,000 square feet, mandatory fencing, annual inspection. The motion passed 4-1. Karen stood, baffled, then reluctantly applauded with the room. Afterward she cornered me in the hallway. Tyler lingered behind her, sneakers scuffing marble. Karen's voice held exhaustion rather than fire. Why help them? They'll just become another HOA headache. I shrugged. Rules can flex without breaking. Besides, you'd have blasted me either way. For the first time she almost smiled. Probably. I extended a hand. Tyler, how's school? He glanced at his mom, unsure. Okay, I guess. Good. Keep it up. He nodded, eyes darting. Karen watched the exchange, jaw working like she wanted to say something. Instead she turned, steering Tyler toward the elevator. Halfway there she looked back. Councilman, congrats. Seriously. Not an apology, but close enough for municipal government work. On a cool January evening, Eleanor dropped a padded envelope on my kitchen counter. "Merry late Christmas," she said. Inside lay a polished brass door knocker shaped like a gavel, engraved Mitchell Gray, Council District 4. I laughed. Where should it go? Front door, she said. Reminder that house wars made you a lawmaker. I held the knocker, its weight solid, reassuring. The odyssey that began with strangers claiming squatters' rights had tumbled through fake recordings, dark money schemes, and karaoke politics, finally landing here, steady metal in my palm. The doorbell camera pinged. I checked the feed. A delivery driver dropping off a parcel, no hooded intrigue. Normal. Boring. Beautiful. I mounted the knocker that night. 3 soft raps echoed through cedar trim, official, but homey. Exactly the balance I'd been chasing. As I sealed the final screw, I thought of Karen's parting words, "Not over," and felt no dread. Conflict might flare again, goats could escape, potholes would reappear, someone would always hate the paint palette clause. But I had learned to meet chaos with documentation, neighbors with conversation, and nonsense with unflinching daylight. Game over? Probably not. But game managed. And on Birchwood Lane, that counted as victory. Florida's humidity hit like a soap towel the first week of June, and the local meteorologists' gleeful swirl graphics announced a tropical storm sliding up from the Caribbean. City Hall doubled its sandbag depot hours. I held daily briefings with Public Works. Residents lined up for plywood like it was Black Friday. Karen live-streamed hurricane prep tips, freeze-gallon jugs. Stock Pop-Tarts. Gaining odd goodwill. Even I had to admit her energy was useful. She organized a pop-up center that handed out battery packs and coloring books for restless kids. But goodwill had an expiration date, and hers arrived sooner than rain. 3 days before landfall, Pauline burst into my office waving a flyer, "Recall Mitchell Gray, Stop City Hall Overreach." It accused me of using emergency powers to confiscate private generators, false, and shut down family businesses. We'd simply asked food trucks to move from flood zones. The petition line at the bottom needed 4,200 signatures to trigger a special recall election. The font? Identical to Karen's campaign literature. The jackhammer graphic had morphed into a lightning bolt. Eleanor studied the document. "Defamation again," she said. "But in storm season? Low blow." Pauline calculated worst-case math. If fear spiked and turnout plummeted, a recall could squeak through. She drafted a counter-campaign, "Keep Calm, Keep Mitchell," and blitzed social media with facts: no generator seizures, only voluntary relocations. Officers Martinez and Thompson backed me in uniform on video, explaining the city's real plan. Karen posted a cryptic reel: "Leaders who can't handle pressure must step aside." She never said "recall," but the hashtag recall Gray glowed beneath. The storm, named Hurricane Lila, wobbled west at the last minute, dumping 10 inches of rain but sparing us the eye. The morning after, I toured Birchwood Lane in a city pickup with Detective Ruiz. Fallen oak limbs blocked driveways, standing water shimmered in cul-de-sacs. Residents waved, relieved, tired. At 42 Sycamore Court a different scene unfolded. 24 people clustered around a folding table, Karen's recall headquarters, collecting signatures. Beside her, Tyler and Brandon handed out pens. Jeremy, somehow on probation already, handed out "End HOA Tyranny" wristbands. I stepped out, mud splashing my boots. "Morning, folks. Assessing damage, need anything?" Karen answered brightly. "Signatures." Snickers rippled through the group. "Anyone's home flooded?" I asked. Silence. I pointed to Martinez's cruiser rolling up the block. "Officers have tarps if you need them." A middle-aged man frowned at his clipboard, then said, "Wait. No one sees generators?" "My cousin's post said, total myth," Ruiz replied. City issued free fuel vouchers. Whispers turned to murmurs. A woman set down her pen. Another volunteer pocketed wristbands. Karen's smile stiffened, but she doubled down. He's still diverting resources. Saw pallets of bottled water outside City Hall. They're for nursing homes, I said. Delivery trucks leave in 10 minutes, follow us, volunteer space for loading. Half the crowd peeled away. Karen glared, eyes flaring like faulty neon. While storm cleanup dominated headlines, another crisis brewed. The West Park Vista HOA, 3 miles west, voted to fine residents whose storm shutter colors didn't match approved taupe. They cited neighborhood harmony. Outrage lit up local radio. The city attorney signaled the fines could violate our new code modernization rules. Reporters asked if West Park's board had consulted me. I answered, they're independent. I respect property rights, but nobody should be punished for protecting their home. It was a straightforward stance, until late that night, when West Park's president emailed a furious screed blaming my council reforms for eroding HOA autonomy. Karen pounced, claiming I was disassembling decades of community-led standards. My inbox flooded with both praise and threats. Pauline labeled it HOA Civil War. I called an open forum at Lincoln High. Hundreds attended, nurses, plumbers, retirees. Speakers alternated, an elderly soldier fined for rusty shutters, a decor purist declaring color chaos the end of civilization. Karen paced at the back, live streaming. When my turn came, I borrowed a janitor's metal trash can, set it center stage, and dropped a stack of sample fines into it. Rust shutter $75, non-taupe shutter $125. I raised a lighter. I'm not erasing HOAs, I said, flicking flame inches from paper. I'm erasing nonsense. The crowd roared. I didn't actually burn them. Fire code, but symbol made its mark. Eleanor later quipped, dramatic flair, little brother. I grinned. Studied from the best, Karen. Signature deadline hit 2 weeks later. Karen's group submitted 3,041, over 1,000 short. Channel 12 captured her press statement, people were intimidated by City Hall goons. She refused to concede but shifted narrative, said she'd become watchdog number 1. Tyler and Brandon stepped back from camera frames, faces red. I felt a flicker of pity. They'd been drafted into an adult grudge war. That evening a cardboard box appeared on my porch, 30 unused recall flyers and a note scrawled in teenage handwriting, "Mom's wrong. Sorry." No signature, but I recognized Tyler's shaky S's. I locked the note in my desk. Summer folded into fall. Quarterly crime numbers dropped, thanks in part to Detective Ruiz's community policing. Code modernization passed Phase 2. GOAT pilot program thrived, 0 escapes. Karen, strangely, quieted. She attended council meetings, sometimes nodded at my remarks, other times scribbled furiously but kept opinions for post-meeting TikToks. Her follower count plateaued, algorithm fatigue, Eleanor guessed. I invited Karen to the new Neighbors First committee, a forum blending civic groups, HOAs, and activists. Pauline gave me a "Are you sure?" look. I shrugged, if she's watchdog, let's give her a seat at the kennel. Karen accepted, but arrived late, sat near exit. Discussed emergency alert gaps for the hearing impaired, made valid points. Committee adopted 2 of her suggestions. Small victories breed bigger ones. By Thanksgiving she'd helped coordinate a toy drive. Local columnists called it my unlikely alliance. Was Karen reformed? Jury still out. Yet Birchwood Lane slept easier without campaign trucks, and that, to me, was progress. January brought a letter from State Senator Marcella Bish. Your code modernization work has become a statewide model. Come testify before the Senate Committee on Community Affairs. It felt like promotion and ambush wrapped in one envelope. I flew to Tallahassee with Eleanor as counsel and Pauline as logistics wizard. Detective Ruiz texted good luck memes. Karen surprised me with a 2-word message: represent us. Inside the Capitol, lobbyists lined halls like eager waiters. The construction consortium I'd buried in the garage scandal had new suits, new name, and a fresh bill removing municipal oversight for large private developments. I gritted my teeth. Past villains never die, they rebrand. The committee room smelled of coffee and carpet glue. I delivered data, overstretched HOAs punishing trivialities, non-English speaking homeowners clueless on bylaws, fines snowballing into foreclosures. I proposed a statewide cap on aesthetic fines, $100 per issue. And mandatory plain language notices. Developers pushed back, citing property value protection. I countered with footage of the Veterans Flag fine and West Park's shutter fiasco. Senators murmured, some scribbled notes. Afterward, consortium lobbyist Zach Ward cornered me. Councilman Gray, always fun. A brittle smile. Our clients think your cap is impractical. Tell your clients to downsize their McMansions, I replied. Floridians care more about roofs than rooflines. Eleanor pulled me away before professionalism cracked. While I sparred in Tallahassee, Birchwood High faced controversy. The school board planned to sell unused athletic land to pay off debt. Guess which consortium offered top dollar? Parents feared condos would clog streets. Students staged walkouts. Karen uploaded tearful TikToks from the bleachers, Tyler beside her. They're stealing futures, she said. For once, comment sections rallied sympathy. Pauline urged caution. Don't overreach, city jurisdiction is limited. Still, I drafted a resolution urging the board to explore leasing rather than selling. It carried no legal muscle but signaled political intent. The board scheduled a public hearing. The auditorium packed beyond fire code. Officers Martinez and Thompson managed doors. Karen sat near front, eyes shining at Tyler nervously clutching speaking notes. He approached the mic. I learned in civics class about checks and balances, he began, voice cracking. If the board sells, we lose fields forever. Lease them, we keep sports and get money. Please think long term. Polite claps swelled into cheers. Even board skeptics couldn't boo a kid quoting civics. Surprised tears rimmed Karen's eyes. She squeezed his hand when he returned to seat. When my turn came, I amplified Tyler's points with budget figures, then looked at him. Leadership, I said, comes in many sizes. Tonight it's 5'6", wears Converse, and just schooled us on stewardship. The room erupted. The board tabled the sale, promised a lease study. Tyler's cheeks glowed crimson. Karen hugged him like victory itself. Consortium allies bombarded me, negative mailers, phone polls framing my policies as anti-growth job killers. They paid influencers to tag me #SlowGrowthGray. But influencer fatigue is real, posts flopped. Then came a cyber attack. City email underwent brute force login attempts at 3 a.m. IT flagged IPs tied to an Atlanta marketing firm linked to, you guessed it, Zach Ward. Ruiz opened an investigation, State Cybercrimes Unit joined. Ward lawyered up faster than a cat chasing laser dots. Channel 12 broke another story, developer tied to phony accounts targeting councilmen. Public sympathy whiplashed back my direction. The Senate vote approached. Tallahassee's rumor mill predicted a 3-3 tie on my fine cap amendment. One swing senator hailed from our county, and was scheduled to attend a local fundraiser hosted by, ironically, the consortium's rebranded PAC. Karen requested a meeting. We sat at Café Dulce, neutral ground smelling of espresso. She slid me an embossed invite, Senator Greer, Builders for a Brighter Florida reception. I was asked to speak, she said. Live stream for my followers. They assume I'll slam you. I sipped coffee. Will you? She traced the logo. I started fighting HOA overreach because I felt powerless. You've shown power can listen. Tyler feels heard. That matters. She exhaled. If I blast you, I get views. If I support you, we get progress. Your call, I said. Popularity fades, playgrounds stay. That night Karen live-streamed from the reception, but instead of attacking, she told the veteran flag story, the GOAT compromise, Tyler's speech. Senator Greer looked uncomfortable on camera yet thanked her for diverse perspectives. 2 days later the committee voted 4-2 in favor of the fine cap. Greer crossed party lines, citing compelling constituent testimony. The governor signed SB 1482, Homeowner Protection and Transparency Act, on a breezy April morning. Cameras clicked as legislators, advocacy groups, and yes, even some reluctant HOAs gathered. I shook hands with Senator Bish, accepted a commemorative pen. Eleanor whispered, "Quite the arc, from squatter crisis to state statute." I laughed. Mom said drama builds character. Karen watched from railings, live streaming. She zoomed in when I turned and gave her a nod, comments poured hearts. She mouthed, "Thanks," then logged off. Late spring, Jeremy completed his sentence, paroled with community service condition, trash pickup along county roads. Word reached me that first day he was assigned Birchwood's highway exit. Cameras could have framed humiliating optics, but I asked Public Works to relocate him, not mercy. Simply no spectacle. Karen approached me afterwards. Why help him? Second chances, I said. Your kid seized his. Jeremy might. She shrugged, but her eyes softened. Council's 2-year term ticked toward re-election season. Pauline floated polling numbers, 71% job approval. Still, complacency breeds defeat. We launched Birchwood 2030, a participatory budgeting program letting residents allocate $500,000. Project pitches flooded in. Solar-powered bus stops, community garden expansions, an esports center dreamed up by Brandon and his friends. The esports idea sparked debate: was gaming community or escapism? Tyler argued passionately on his brother's behalf: it teaches teamwork. The committee ranked it third, GOAT program expansion took first. Democracy in microcosm. One June dusk, I sat on my porch nursing iced tea. The refurbished leather couch, cleaned after Earl's siege. Now lived in the rec center, swapped for a kinder sectional. My brass door knocker glinted. Footsteps approached. Karen, in jeans and a neighbor's first t-shirt, waved. City's quiet tonight. For once, I said. She leaned on the railing. Tyler signed up for volunteer hours, storm prep booth. Proud of him. He looks up to you. She paused. Maybe I do, too, sometimes. I raised my glass. Progress. She smirked. Don't get cocky, Councilman. I'm still watchdog number 1. Then keep watching, I said. Accountability makes us better. A chorus of crickets filled the pause. Porch lights flicked on up and down Birchwood Lane, tiny beacons across lawns once torn by chaos. And in that glow I saw the simple truth politics had hammered home: neighborhoods survive storms, literal and metaphorical, because imperfect people choose, again and again, to stay, to argue, to mend, and, ultimately, to build. Game on, sure. But sometimes, game understood. And that was enough. True security, it turns out, is not just the lock on our front door but the network of mindful choices and principled habits that hold a neighborhood, and a life, together. Mitchell Gray's odyssey from startled homeowner to policymaker reminds us that vigilance begins with small acts, keeping accurate records, knowing our rights, and refusing to let fear or fury write the narrative when clarity and patience will do. Yet the tale also underlines how resiliency is forged in collaboration. When crises struck, be it a storm, a lawsuit, or a manufactured smear, Mitchell leaned on honest neighbors, ethical officers, and a sister whose legal acumen steadied the ship. Their combined integrity became an unspoken pact. Communities thrive whenever ordinary people commit to transparency and fair play. Just as important is the willingness to correct course without malice. Even Karen, driven by grievance, eventually found value in constructive engagement once others acknowledged her legitimate concerns and set clear, consistent boundaries. We are reminded that growth stems from accountability but blossoms through empathy, offering second chances to a misguided teen, hearing opposing voices at an open forum, or transforming a backyard goat debate into a lesson in cooperative problem-solving. Most of all, Mitchell's journey underscores the power of showing up. At council meetings, cleanup events, or a neighbor's porch, with both courage and an open mind. In a world quick to amplify outrage and slow to reward nuance, his story proves that calm documentation outshines conspiracy, that facts travel further when carried by compassion, and that everyday citizens can still bend big systems toward common sense. So wherever you are watching, whether from a bustling city block or a quiet cul-de-sac, let this saga nudge you to safeguard your home with wisdom, defend your voice with civility, and champion your community with persistence. If that lesson resonates, help the conversation ripple outward. Tap, like, ring the bell, subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you're tuning in from. Together, we can turn cautionary tales into blueprints for neighborly strength.